One. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Coasters podcast. I'm Harry, joined with Dr. David.
Hello, how are you?
And we have Joe Leun on the podcast. So welcome, Joe.
How's it going, guys?
Going well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We have so many young guests. Don't get me wrong. I'm inspired. I know David's inspired, but at the same time, I kind of feel shitty about myself because
we have somebody get started because we weren't smart enough to get started when we were their age. Yeah.
So kudos to you, Joe. But I met Joe through my RIA, and yeah, Joe, if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you got started, what you're currently doing.
Yeah, so my name's Joe Leun. I'm 24 years old. I've been in real estate about 1.5 to 2 years now. I graduated from Binghamton University back in 2020 with an economics degree. And that was the middle of the pandemic. Couldn't find a job anywhere. So I figured, screw it, I'll get into real estate. And I bought my first property, and I was managing that while I was working on Long Island. I had a 9-to-5 job on Long Island, and my property was all the way up in Binghamton. For those who don't know, that's about 4 hours away. So that was a bit of a struggle.
From New York City.
Yeah. So Binghamton's upstate New York, and I was down on Long Island. And
so you did find a job, because otherwise, how?
Yeah.
I guess how did you end up buying that first house?
And before we get into that, why did you think that you had no options other than real estate? Like, you have a good head of hair. Wasn't acting on the radar?
acting, modeling, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I was no one was hiring at the time. This is I didn't even have a graduation. I ended up like my university switched to Zoom University. So at the time too, a lot of people, especially in a city like Binghamton, which is student housing predominantly, a lot of the student housing landlords were freaking out because suddenly these universities switched to an online platform and housing became irrelevant. So so the prices were actually coming down because this is when everyone was freaking out. And I only knew Long Island properties, and I knew Binghamton properties, and Long Island houses tend to be a lot more expensive than Binghamton. So I knew that was a lower barrier to entry. So I decided to dive in. And luckily, I had enough money saved up. I partnered with my mom at the time, and we went 50-50 on the property. And the thing was only $65,000, but that's been my best deal to date.
No kidding.
And what gave you a level of confidence that Binghamton? Sorry if I mentioned. I know the University of Binghamton. That Binghamton was a viable area to invest in. What gave you?
You weren't concerned that the whole Zoom University thing would be indefinite and that you wouldn't be able to get a student in there?
Yeah, I mean, I was using Zoom, and you have 80-year-old professors trying to figure out how to use Zoom, and like you ended up getting an A in all your classes because it was just run so horribly. So yeah, I had confidence that we were gonna have to go back to the real world eventually. So that's I just dove in.
How is the area in comparison to, like, if you take the student/university factor out of the equation, how is it as a market on its own without the university?
Yeah, so that's the scary thing. So that's why Binghamton is the main economic driver in that area. The university gives a lot of money to the city and to the surrounding area. It gives a lot of employment, and but there's a lot of medical. That's the alternative. I have a couple doctors in some of my units. If I'm not doing, because I don't only do students at this point, because I'm kind of worried about the whole relying solely on a university, just in case, if they were to shut down for whatever reason. I want to make sure I don't have all my eggs in one basket.
Cool.
Do you mostly invest in that Binghamton area? I don't even know the name of that place.
The West Coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, basically just that's my main thing. That's my bread and butter. I I'm a real estate agent too, so I help people invest in different areas, but Binghamton's kind of my bread and butter, and where I've found, I kind of have a niche there, a niche
Okay.
market to drill into.
All right. So you're an agent too. So that good head of hair can come into play. So
Yeah.
good. So you did that first deal with your mom. Walk us through that deal. What was it like? Is it a buy and hold? Is it a fix and
Yeah.
flip?
Yeah. So that was a buy and hold. We closed actually Friday the 13th, in November of 2020. And that deal was absolute mayhem. Within 24 hours, I had an inch of water all over the first floor. I was freaking out. I thought I just made the worst financial decision of my life.
What did your mom think?
My mom thought she made the worst financial decision of her life too. And
But she didn't question having you at that point, right?
yeah,
It's like, why
luckily,
the
yeah,
He
luckily,
said worst financial decision. She didn't talk about other decisions.
yeah. So luckily we ended up turning that thing around, and she didn't have to question having me so soon. But yeah, so we lost some money there. We bought the home from a flipper, and the flipper, he didn't fix a broken pipe in the basement. So there was a broken pipe, and we couldn't get it covered by insurance. We had a home warranty company. We couldn't get that covered. We ended up spending like six grand out of pocket, and it really delayed the whole rehab process and the work we were doing, because we couldn't even shower. We couldn't even use the toilet. So that took about a month and a half to get resolved. And that really slowed us down a bit, because being from Long Island, I needed to actually stay at the house. And if I wasn't able to stay at the house, well, that kind of killed us a bit. So luckily we got that all resolved, got the property. It was a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. And what I did was I put up a door in this extra living space kind of part, and I was able to make it a 4-bed, 1.5 bath. So that property was rented out year one for $1,700, and they cover all utilities. So my mortgage, taxes, and insurance came out to about $530 a month, and my gross rent was $1,700. So that was pretty good for us. And then now we're on year two. I have tenants in there paying 19, and haven't had any issues really. Some things obviously came up here and there with the heating unit and all these other problems, but we've moved past them.
So let me ask you a question. Well, I have two questions. Question number one, was there anything you could have done to prevent the problem with the pipe? And then question number two, was your plan, was your plan to rent it right away? And if there was a delay of, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, how much of in the water would you be with that deal? So, could you have prevented this problem? And how much did the success of this deal depend on you having to rent it out right away?
Yeah, I mean, so we bought the property in November. We didn't rent it out until May. So that took us a long time. For sure took us a long time, but
was it the renovation process that slowed you down, or was it just the fact that you're essentially on a school cycle, so you're kind of waiting for the next cycle to get someone in?
Yeah, so that's part of it. It's like the thing with student housing, it does, it's very
Cyclical.
it's very cyclical. You got to be careful about vacancy rates and all that, because students like to move in anywhere from June to August. So or even May to August. So yeah, that was part of it. Another big thing, Harry, to your point, is like I definitely could have prevented that. I made a lot of mistakes on that deal, because that was number one. And I kind of just was figuring it out as I went along. So that first deal, we were doing all the work ourselves, except for the more serious plumbing stuff and electric work. but we did a lot of the work ourselves. So that was a big delay, especially we were both working all week. We would drive up Friday night after we got off work, and then we would drive back home Sunday night and have to do it all over again. So it was really stressful, but we got through it. Looking back, I would probably just hire out people, and
Sure.
I wouldn't buy a deal unless I'm able to hire. Like if there's not enough meat on that deal for me to hire people, I'm not going to do it. I don't
So
want to be doing it
so
myself.
you would not advise to do any work yourself for anyone,
Yeah,
or is it situational? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, realistically, everyone always says that like you can't scale a portfolio while you got your head in the toilet, right? That's kind of the whole mantra. But realistically, if you're on a budget, sometimes you got to do some work yourself. Um, I still pick up a hammer here and there. I don't enjoy doing it, but I'm working towards really just, you know, not doing anything at this point in terms of picking up hammers, doing paintbrushes, all that.
I hear you. I do have I know the answer to this question because we're in the same RIA, East Coast RIA, but could you tell the audience and David what got you into real estate? I'm thinking specifically the story you had with your professor. Could you tell
Yeah.
that story?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I was about to graduate. I had about $20,000 in just in an account, and I was ready to invest in something. And this professor, I was really close with this guy. He taught stocks and all these different financial market classes. And he was my favorite professor. So I sat down with him and I was like, Kenny, I have $20,000 to invest in something. What should I invest in? I thought he was going to say like buy Microsoft, Amazon, whatever. Stocks though. And he looks at me square in the face and he's like, buy land. I'm like, Kenny, what the hell are you talking about? And we sat there for about an hour. He walked me through it all. And I'm sure you guys know, when he says buy land, he means, just the whole scarcity of it all is like, they're not making any more land. So it's got to go up in value at some point. So yeah, and we talked through the whole, tax benefits and having people rent, and you're getting basically dividends coming in from the rent and all the benefits.
Gotcha.
So since your first deal, which you still have, right?
Yeah.
And how many properties do you have now? What are you focusing on now?
Yeah, so I'm up to 3 properties now. I have 1 under contract. So that was the only single family I own. The other 2 that I bought are duplexes. So I'm up to 5 units now. And then the next one that I have under contract, hopefully we're closing at the end of this month. That's another duplex. And kind of my bread and butter has been small multis. That's what I've been sticking to.
How are you finding them?
So it really varies. I mean, I do a lot, some off-market stuff, but I've had better results with just negotiating off of Zillow. A lot of what I'm doing is different than what works for other people. So I'm not necessarily finding great deals. I've noticed that finding great deals is extremely hard.
Yeah.
I have to make great deals. So I go walk through a property that's listed maybe on Zillow as a 3-bed, 2-bath, but I realize that there's extra living space that I can just convert to a bedroom very simply. And then I have a 4th bed and I have an extra, $400, $500, $600 a month based off that bedroom. So that's really where I'm drilling down and focusing on.
I know your colleague Alon Avji. He keeps saying you don't find great deals, you make great deals.
Make them.
Yeah. That's
and-
definitely a focus for us.
And just to so David asked how you find the deals. Now I'm wondering, how do you fund the deals?
Yeah. So my first 2, I did with my mom.
Okay.
Luckily, I had enough cash saved where we were just able to go in there with conventional mortgages, only only do 75% or 85% LTV on the loans. And the third deal, I got hard money and I brought $10,000 to it. And we're looking to hopefully refinance out of that soon. That deal's been kind of a headache for us. Next deal, I have another partner that he's bringing the mortgage. I'm bringing some funds. He's bringing a little more funds than I am. And I'm bringing, I'm basically running the deal for him. So he's down on Long Island and I take care of everything for him.
Got it. Sorry, David, do you want to add something?
So what part does your mom have in all this? Is she also driving up there? And like when you had your first deal, is she also driving up there with you and hammering away and trying to get this thing off the ground?
Yeah. So my mom, she knew nothing of real estate. She's a fashion designer. So I kind of was.
How's he not a model?
What's that?
How's he not a model? She's a fashion designer. This guy's got to be a model.
But yeah, I mean, she's kind of a lunatic in that sense where she can work, in New York. She works in New York City, so she'll come home at 7:00 at night, pack her stuff up, drive up to Binghamton that night, get into the Binghamton house, say at midnight, and she'll work. She'll do some paint, she'll do whatever she needs to, and then sometimes she needs to leave the next day. So she has excellent.
She knows how to hustle.
Yeah, so she has excellent work ethic. That's kind of one of the things we butt heads on, because she kind of comes from that mindset, like the poor scarcity mindset, where she doesn't want to hire people to do things when she could do it herself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't scale that way.
Yeah, exactly. And we constantly butt heads on that, but that's part of a partnership,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that's a fundamental difference between being a real estate investor and being a real estate entrepreneur. If you're an investor, you're doing you're buying, you're flipping yourself, you're trying to do everything within your own scope. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have to scale, and scaling involves outsourcing tasks to other people. So I should send you an article, Joe. It's on Bigger Pockets. It's basically the difference between being an investor and being a real estate entrepreneur. So maybe that'll shed some clarity, like, Mom, we have to outsource. We have to.
Yeah. And she's starting to, be okay with that. It takes a couple long nights, and now she's starting to be more willing to just hire out, especially as I'm getting better with my systems and my processes and finding cheaper guys in the area, so we're starting to make that work. But yeah.
What is the future for these properties that you already have? Are you, like you said, okay, one of them, you took hard money out, so you want to eventually refinance, get out of that hard money, right? You eventually want to, like the one you own or the two properties you own half with your mom, do you eventually want to buy her half out? Or are you okay staying in that partnership?
So, I mean, we've talked about it. There's a couple different options. I mean, she's comfortable with either or. Her main goal is to get down to a warmer state. She's getting sick in New York. So that was kind of part of the whole retirement plan for her. So we talked about maybe selling them off. We know we have a decent amount of equity in them, and we'd be able to make a decent amount on selling them. But they've been cash flowing well. We have a property we bought for $65,000 that makes about $20,000 a year. So why would we sell it?
Makes no sense.
Yeah,
it's a great property.
Yeah, it's still new for us, so we're still going to keep it for now. Maybe in the next few years, we'll probably sell them off. I'm thinking about. I like the whole idea of packaging and selling at a cap rate and giving someone a turnkey portfolio. So, basically, if I were to sell these properties just on a MLS to regular first-time home buyers, whatever, they're not going to want to pay the price that a turnkey rental portfolio is going to get. And I'll be able to sell those properties at a higher multiple because they have a solid rental history, and there's tenants in there. Someone could come in there and make a set return on their money, and it's a very predictable asset.
Mhm.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned cap rate. What is a cap rate that gets you excited?
Yeah, I mean, in Binghamton, I could package I'm not. Am I buying the property, Harry, or am I selling the property? That's important.
Um, Actually, you tell me the difference, because I'm thinking to myself, you're buying the property and you're looking at the cap rate on your.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
when I'm purchasing a property, I really don't look at the cap rate. I mean, it's in my spreadsheet, but it's not really. I'm not paying too much attention to it.
Why
But
not?
because I like to go off cash on cash,
Cash
and
on cash, got it.
yeah, that's more important for me. But I'm not gonna buy something that comparable sales are selling at 10 cap. I'm not going to buy it at 5 cap. But certain assets that you know, like the cap rates it fluctuates depending what the asset class is.
Sure.
Like a multi 80 unit a complex isn't going to sell at the same cap rate as a single family or a small multi will. Those are obviously going to be way compressed. Now, when I go to sell my properties, though, if I can provide someone with, say, 20 units of turnkey rentals, then I could sell that property as a portfolio at, say, a 7 or an 8 cap. They have very predictable returns. They have a solid history to take a look at, and as long as my expenses are in order, I'm making decent profit, that it'll sell no problem. So that's what I'm kind of aiming towards. In the next few years, I'll take it all and I'll package it and sell it, wrap it into something bigger.
1031 exchange.
Yeah, or something else, you know.
Gotcha. You also mentioned cash and cash return. What's a percent that gets you excited on cash and cash return?
It's got to be over 12.
Over 12.
Yeah, if I can make that in stocks, I don't need the headache of dealing with contractors, tenants, and all that other bullshit. Okay. Am I allowed to curse here?
Yeah, it's yes, you are. we had Greg Hellback on the show as our first guest. I don't. Do you know who Greg is?
Greg? No, I
Greg
don't.
Hellback.
No.
Well, he curses a lot, so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, cursing is allowed on the show. So let me ask you, so it seems like you're focused really on the buy and hold. Are flips in your plan, or wholesaling, or
Yeah, I mean,
development?
so in a place like Binghamton, flips aren't as lucrative as, say, Long Island, where, you know, Long Island, you buy the shittiest house on the block, you make it pretty, and
You can sell it for a lot, whereas in Binghamton, it sounds like 65,000 is like right around that average range.
yeah, and you know, I'm not gonna be making as much money because they tend to be much older homes and they need a lot more serious work if, you know, it's been sitting for a few years. So, but I have been looking towards turnkey flips where basically I purchased the home, I renovated a little bit, I rent it out, and then I sell it to someone who's looking to make a set return on their money. And basically, they don't want the headache of finding tenants, they don't want the headache of dealing with contractors. And I just provide them with a decent deal where they can have predictable and steady returns, you know?
And that involves, so that does not involve flipping at all, or?
No, well, that would be it's a turnkey flip. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a little more involved than a regular flip. I'm actually gonna have to find the tenant and then make sure that's fully stabilized, and then I'll sell it at a cap rate, which is again gonna boost the price up from what the comps actually represent. So
Gotcha.
it definitely gets you a little more value on the property.
Gotcha. Just sorry, I just want to backtrack. Shout out to Greg Hellback. We loved your cursing, and Joe, you can curse to your heart's content. So this is a inclusive show. So awesome.
So Greg, you're a real estate agent, right? as well.
Well, no, Greg was our first guest. This is Joe.
Sorry, Joe. Joe, I don't know you said. Anyway,
David, you got
after work. I'm sorry.
too much work. Too much
Too much
non-real
work.
estate work.
Exactly.
Too much non-real estate work.
So Joe, you're a real estate agent. So do you actually use that license for something, or did you get that mostly so you can have easy access to the MLS? What do you do with that?
Yeah. So basically,
Do you still have your 9 to 5?
No, I'm full-time in real estate at this point. And
Meaning what? Meaning
I'm a real estate agent. So
okay.
when I need income, I make income as an agent. And I'm also, I have my rents coming in, and then I also have, just sales that I'm working towards. That's been my main focus.
So you don't consider that a 9 to, well, yeah, being a real estate agent, saying it's not 9 to 5 could imply to some people like, oh, it's easy. No, it could be.
He doesn't have his usual 9 to 5. Yeah, he's got a 24/7 now.
Yeah, 24/7.
Exactly. Exactly. And I got people screaming at me and telling me not to call them back and whatever other bullshit I got to deal with. But the main reason I got my license was because as a young kid and as an investor, I was noticing that a lot of buyer's agents didn't really want to work with me. They see me make a low ball offer and they think I'm not serious, or they just don't understand investing at all. They would show me a property and say, hey, it looks nice on the inside. We should get it, offer ask price or offer above ask price. And then I don't care, personally, as an investor, I don't really care so much what the inside looks like. I'm looking at the numbers. If the numbers make sense, I'll do it all day. So that was a constant issue in the beginning. I was running through agents like crazy and I couldn't find one that I really jived with and I liked. So I figured, screw it. I'll
just gonna represent yourself.
Yeah, and I'll do it myself. So every sale, every purchase I do, I'm the agent on it. And then I also have like clients who are looking for similar investments that I'm looking for. So
you mostly work with other investors. You don't work with just regular retail.
Yeah, I mean I do, but
buyers, sellers.
They tend to have a little more headaches. Investors, I can sit them down and say,
here's the numbers.
Yeah, I don't care if you don't like the paint color or the cabinets. Here's the numbers. You're going to make this amount. We should do this,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a different conversation. And also I enjoy it more,
Okay. Can I ask you, when you started, how did you learn how to analyze the deal and be able to say, all right, this is a good deal. This makes sense. How were you able to do that?
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I was doing very rudimentary, underwriting. So I was, very basic, just looking at the mortgage, taxes, insurance, not factoring in vacancy, not factoring in maintenance, CapEx, all this other stuff. So that I just learned over time. Bigger Pockets, I listened to Bigger Pockets in the beginning, but I feel like they don't dive too deep into certain topics. I feel like they only touch very face value stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned that with time,
And then no knock to Bigger Pockets, because they provide a great service to a lot of people, but sometimes I think you just get the good, but not too much of the bad. But again, listen, Bigger Pockets has helped a lot of people. They've helped me. David, you listen to them.
I've bought several of their books.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you look inside the book, in a 1 hour podcast, you're not going to get all the details. We're not going to get all of Joe's details on his first deal, on all the numbers. But if you go into the books, and it's not just Bigger Pockets books, all the real estate books, they go into here's all the numbers you should be going through, right? So it's all there.
Let me ask David, are there any college type towns in your area that kind of are like Binghamton? Because I know the San Francisco, that's not that. I mean, that's
no, but where I went to college in Davis, I never, real estate was never on my mind when I was always like, all right, I'm gonna go to dental school, right? But I was always thinking, man, whoever owns these houses that I'm renting from, they're cleaning up.
Yeah.
Because I was paying a lot in rent, right? And the problem is this is still California. So even a little town like Davis, the properties are still fairly expensive. But if you can get one, if you can get a distressed property and fix it up and get some students in there and hold that for long term, you're going to be very happy, like Joe is with that first property.
David, you said you're a dentist?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. My sister, she went to school in Buffalo, New York for dentistry, and she just moved out to San Diego.
Okay.
For her residence.
Very nice.
So I was just out there for a few weeks. It's pretty awesome out there.
San Diego's a good place to be.
Yeah.
I'd love to live there too.
Yeah. She's going to be poor making her residency salary, but
how did you let her go to dental school when you know all of this about real estate? Like, you should have been like, hey, look, there's no reason to put yourself into all this debt for something that it's a lot of work. And you are 20, how old? And you already have cash flowing properties.
Yeah, but she's also going to be making a lot more money than me over the next, couple years. And
on the front end.
Yeah, on the front end. Yeah. And well, she also has a lot of debt. I would never
exactly. Exactly.
So going off a little bit off topic, something that David and I have talked a lot about, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Joe, but God, there's so many dentists in New York City that they were practicing dentistry maybe in the 80s, the 90s, even they invested in real estate. The dentistry, the money that they made from dentistry that they were able to plow into, they are loaded beyond belief. So it's amazing, be a dentist in the 80s, 90s in New York City and buying properties in Manhattan for like, I don't know, like the equivalent to like Bitcoin in 2012. Like just
exactly.
Yeah.
So then dentists were also making a lot more money compared to their tuition. So there's been a huge, like your sister, myself, we took on a lot of debt to get that piece of paper that says we're dentists. Well, back when those guys went to school, they paid a lot less to go to dental school, and they're making a ton of money as dentists when they get out. So, and then real estate, like Harry was saying, in New York was probably not that expensive in comparison to what they were making. And so, yeah, they were able to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, I've met so many dentists. They're just like living in palatial mansions. I'm like, wait, what does that person do? They're a dentist. Oh, I'm not kidding. Joe, look up, and David, you too, look up Kings Point, Long Island. You will see palatial mansions over there. You won't believe how many of those mansions are owned by dentists.
What is that?
Just dentists and physicians in general, just like.
No, physician. No. The physician narrative makes, with all due respect, David, to dentists. But we're talking. Listen, no one ever thinks, oh, dentist, that's not a good living. It's a good living, but we're talking palatial mansion, palatial. Kings Point, Long Island. Look it up when both of you have time. Listen, if you say a physician like a heart surgeon, I get it, but we're talking palatial mansions. That, I mean, Chris Rock did a whole skit on that. He's like, I have to be me, but my next door neighbor who lives in a mansion in Alpine, New Jersey, he's a dentist. But
they're important. You can't knock them too much.
Yeah, I love my dentist. They make sure that I can chew my food. So amongst other things, but yeah, kind of circling back. So I know we don't have too much time here, but so. Do you have any plan? Because I know we're, in our RIA, we really discussed Long Island, maybe. That's kind of where the talk goes. But do you have any plans to expand elsewhere in New York State or on the East Coast or other states?
I had a question about the warmer states. Are you and your mom planning on expanding to a warmer state? Since she wants to live there and God knows New York's cold, maybe you want to get out of New York.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's the thing is, I'm just really trying to hyper focus on what I know and what I can do well before I spread myself too thin and think about going in all these different markets. Binghamton's been working for me, so I really just want to focus, build the portfolio out there. But absolutely, I want to get out of New York eventually. New York is just, the weather sucks, and honestly, the policies don't. They're entirely against property owners.
Well, you're gonna get us banned on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. So I,
That's actually, I mean, he brings up a good point. Like, I don't want to buy rental. My goal for California is flipping properties. I don't want to get into a position where I have tenants in California.
Yeah.
Because that to me is a scary, very liable position. And if we get into a position like 2019, March of 2020, when they said, oh, we're going to put everyone's rents on hold, and every landlord's like, what? Especially in states like California and New York.
Yeah.
It's a scary position to be in.
Yeah, where the politicians think that you know, that they have total control over everything, and we are just they're peasants, and you know, and they're our serfs. So don't get me started on the policy in New York. The policy in New York suck.
yeah.
As they do in California.
Yeah, so that's basically where I'm at. I'm thinking the same exact things. Luckily, students tend to have a very low eviction rate. So that hasn't, I have never heard of a student getting evicted. You know, someone going to college, you know, spending thousands and thousands of dollars probably doesn't want an eviction on their record before they even, you know, get out of school. So, you know, in terms of looking at Long Island properties, Harry, I've thought about it. Long Island just really doesn't cash flow well. I can maybe consider myself getting into flips on Long Island, but it's kind of, for me to do that, I'm just getting all over the place. So I kind of just want to really focus on Binghamton for the short term. And then eventually, yeah, David, I would love to get down to, you know, Florida, Arizona, Arkansas, and all the warmer places where I can make pretty solid cash flow. And also I'm going to have much more favorable policy.
Yes, I lived in Arizona. Actually, I enjoyed living there. I know people complain about the heat, as I'm sure they complain about the heat in Florida. But, you know, for like myself, well, what do you do during the day? You're at work, like most other people. So like the people that you're renting these homes to, they're probably also at work or at home working from home. People are like, well, what do you do with all the heat? Well, you're at home inside your AC.
And
right?
it's better to deal with the heat of the climate.
Arizona.
No, the heat of the climate versus the heat of an oppressive government. Which
yes, and now we just got banned from.
Just cut that past 5 minutes out. And
five vaccines for everyone.
Brought to you by
I don't.
And
I don't want to.
Now the FBI is definitely watching us.
That's it. But just a final question for me. I don't know, David, if you have any other questions, but just to wrap it up. Marketing. Do you do anything with marketing, or just?
Yeah. So I mean, I played around with mail before. Didn't really get great success there. Honestly, I probably didn't do it long enough.
How long did you do it for?
Like a couple months, like 2-3 months. Nothing crazy. I just it was a little like I was doing it all myself. It was a lot of work. I've done door knocking, a lot of door knocking. That really didn't work too well, especially in a place like Binghamton where you have predominantly tenants in there. And like you knock on the door and the person's like, I'm not the owner. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And you're like, ah. So what's been working the best for me has been phone calls. So I pull a list, I'll skip trace it, and then I'll get on the phone and I'll call them. I haven't been doing that as much as I should because there's been enough deals on Zillow for me to take a look at. But calling has definitely been my best success on the off market side.
Awesome.
Good.
David, do you have any questions on your mind for Joe?
What's your social media? Do you do social media?
Yeah, so I'm really big on Instagram. My Instagram's just joe.leun, Leun. I post a lot of stuff on, what I'm doing in real estate, and also I post a lot of education. If there's something current that's going on, I'll talk about it, and give my 2 cents on it.
So
Have you gotten any deals from it?
Uh, yeah, not deals, but I've gotten investors from it,
Okay.
and a lot of people who
Some
want.
good connections have
Yeah,
come out of it. Yeah, it's good.
yeah, and I used to never have social media. I hated social media years ago, and I still kind of do. But
Yeah.
I realize it's kind of like a necessary evil if you have any sort of business. So, because if I, for example, I called a contractor the other day, and I was like, all right, I needed to give him a large scope of work, and I was out of town, and I was like, I'll just email it to you. He's like, I don't do email. And I was like, oh, can I text it to you? And he's like, I don't do text. And I was like, and he was kind of a dick about it. And I was like, all right, have a good day. So for anyone who's not online, has no online presence, and they're trying to run a business, good luck.
Not having email is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, you might have bookies that are looking for him, so you don't know. Cool, Joe. So is social media? So we'll include the links. You gave your Instagram. Is if people want to learn more about you, reach out to you. Is social media the best way? Is there any other way?
Yes, definitely on Instagram. That's my best way. I
Cool.
respond to all my DMs, all my messages, and yeah, I'm pretty active on there.
Awesome. Well, we'll post a link so people can reach out and learn more about you. Well, listen, Joe, I loved having you on. I always enjoy interacting with you in the RIA, so I'm super thankful. It was great having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Joe's been very inspirational. It's good to see young guys getting after it.
Hell yeah.